And so 5 days ago, I read on social media of the news of the sons of Paul Kim. And Paul Kim, who is a Catholic speaker and a strong evangelizing voice for young people, that his son was being admitted to the hospital for a heart failure that required a major heart surgery. And so currently the young child, Micah, is on life support. And trusting in God, Paul Kim, his wife, and his family not only spent time praying, but he also turned this crisis into an opportunity to make God known by posting messages on the internet, asking people to pray for his son through the intercessions of our venerable Parochial. And dear brother and sister in Christ, today we heard from the gospel reading a crisis that happened to the Holy Family. Within a year or two after Jesus' birth, the family had to uproot from their home and flee to Egypt to find accommodations and earn a living because Herod threatened the life of the baby Jesus. Only after the death of Herod that the family was able to move back to Nazareth. And so the crisis in which the child Jesus finds himself in drives home for us the way in which God, in the incarnation, identifies with our human conditions. And like Paul Kim that I mentioned earlier, many families today at times lived in some kind of crisis. Whether it is a result of a concern for our political climate, or it's a concern due to an economic constraint due to job losses, or the threats to our emotional and physical health and well-being due to illnesses. And so, whatever crisis that you are experiencing together as a family, there is a corresponding grace that follows if and only if we continue to trust in God and to unite as a family unit. Just as we heard from the gospel reading about the Holy Family, trusting in God through the message of the angel. We heard that Joseph picked up and moved his family away from danger, and then moved Mary and Jesus back when danger was no longer threatening the family. And so as human beings, as soon as a crisis surfaces, the first thing that takes our mind away from recognizing that there is a God is that we immediately ask the question, why is this happening to me and my family? And so hopelessness, pain, and suffering, if we come to recognize what they are part of any crisis. Hopelessness, pain, and sufferings are parts of any crisis. And for many of us, perhaps hopelessness, pain, and suffering could break us or make us spiritually. And many of us turn away from God because of our experiences of hopelessness, pain, and suffering. However, dear brother and sister in Christ, we need to keep in our minds and our hearts that there is a corresponding grace in every crisis and every situation that we may find ourselves in, that we might find ourselves and our families in. That as the Holy Family was guided by God through His angel, we are also being guided by Him through His presence in our prayers and the prayers of the church. There's no better way than to turn to God in prayer and to ask for spiritual guidance, assistance from an army of praying warriors here on earth and in heaven. And just like any ordinary Jewish family, the Holy Family prayed together, singing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. And they took the necessary steps to care for one another. They acted trusting in God the Father, what God the Father has asked of them, according to His will and not their own. And so they found joy and not in worldly comforts, but in their deep union with God and with one another. So, dear brother and sister in Christ, we can also increase our confidence and our trust in God and our union with God, that He continues to guide us if we make prayers the important part of our lives and our family. In other words, prayers should be the center in our family. Because we often hear that a family prays together, stays together. Or the home is the domestic church. And so cultivating a praying family is to love and to be at peace. And to let this peace of Christ control our hearts. Trusting in God's will despite crisis. And at the same time, praying together and praying for one another as a family is to put on God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, with heartfelt compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, bearing with one another and forgiving one another. As we heard from the second reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Colossians. And several days ago, at all the Christmas masses, we gifted you and invited you to go on the 33 days to Eucharistic glory pilgrimage. And if you have not already prayed together as a family, or if you have already been praying together as a family, I encourage you to take this opportunity, to use this as an opportunity to go on the spiritual pilgrimage together for 33 days, to consecrate yourselves and your family to the Eucharist. So that nourished and nurtured by the Eucharist, your family can continue to have that confidence and that trust in God, that God is caring for you, loving you, and He is guiding you as He guided the Holy Family and the Kims during the time of crisis.